Good evening, guys, and welcome back to the Suburban Proletarian. My name is Greg, and tonight I want to take a quick look at a relatively new watch. I've had this about 2 weeks now. Normally I would do an unboxing, but I bought this watch direct from China on eBay. And like so many of these inexpensive Chinese watches, it didn't come in a box. Well, it came in a shipping box, but inside it was just packaged in a little bubble wrap bag, which I promptly threw away and put the thing on my wrist. And I've been wearing it for about 2 weeks, and I've come away pretty impressed with this watch. As is so often the case with these cheap watches that you buy direct from China, it's a clone. An homage, but you'd probably better say a clone of a much more expensive watch. The Chinese started cloning Rolex watches, I don't know, 40 years ago or something like that. I'm not ashamed to admit I purchased my first outright counterfeit Rolex in Bangkok, Thailand in, I think, 1991. Might have been late 1990. We were on our way to the first Persian Gulf War, and that was a Liberty port. And I don't feel too bad about it because that first counterfeit Rolex wouldn't have fooled anyone from anything less than about 20 feet away. It was a terrible thing. But the Chinese have really honed their skills at copying the great designs of the West over the intervening, whatever that is, 30 years. And they're making some pretty nice stuff nowadays. Now, I don't obviously condone buying counterfeit stuff, but if you've watched my channel before, you know that I'm not necessarily opposed to clones or homages, and that usually does mean a Swiss watch. Beyond Rolex, the Chinese have expanded out now to cloning Tudor and Omega and Blancpain and, of course, Panerai, and even some of the haute horology brands like Patek and Audemars Piguet. As a matter of fact, I've got an AP clone coming in. Probably be reviewing that in a couple of weeks. But anyway, this watch is not Swiss, obviously it's not Swiss, but the watch that this watch pays homage to is not Swiss. It's in fact German. This is a clone made by, or I guess more accurately marketed as, a Debert or Debert or Debert. I don't know how you would want to pronounce that. The Chinese come up with these sort of English or French sounding names without really explaining how they're to be pronounced. It's also sold, or an identical watch is sold under the Corju brand name from China. And it's a clone of the Richard Lange observatory chronometer, or scientific observation watch from Lange and Söhne in Glashütte, Germany. And they did an amazing job with this watch. Every, I don't know, 6 months or a year goes by, I purchase another watch from China and kind of grit my teeth and wonder what's coming. And every time I'm a little bit more impressed and a little bit more impressed. And this watch is really very impressive. It looks a lot more expensive than it is. But you didn't come here to see me talk about the watch. You came here to see the watch. So let's head over to the tabletop and take a look at it. All right, guys, so here is the watch in question. And if we look at page 104 of the Lange and Söhne collection book for 2018, we'll see the Richard Lange scientific observation watch, of which the watch that we're looking at today is basically a clone. This is a very, very nice watch, as you can see. It also retails for somewhere north of $20,000. This watch cost me $74 plus shipping on eBay, so it's a little bit more affordable. Obviously, this watch is missing the Lange and Söhne Glashütte legend on the dial, thankfully, because we don't do counterfeits here on the Suburban Proletarian. But otherwise, the dial is very nice. You can see that the Roman numerals are raised ever so slightly. Very classically designed, as you would expect, since they basically created this dial using a Xerox machine. In addition to the Roman numerals on the dial, there are small Arabic numerals around the periphery of the dial. They're highlighted in red at the 4 cardinal marks. Presumably that had something to do with this type of watch's original purpose as a scientific observation watch. Nowadays, a lot of people get the term chronometer and the term chronograph mixed up, and it's an understandable mistake. But the watches of the time period that this watch pays homage to, at that point in time, the line between chronometer and chronograph was sort of blurred. There were no push-button chronographs, which allowed a scientist or an astronomer to make observations with his eyes and actually time things using pushers on the watch without actually looking at the watch. Scientific observation watches like this were meant to be very accurate, a chronometer, but they were also used for timing things very precisely, like a chronograph. And as a result, each of the second marks going around the periphery of the dial has smaller gradations. In this case, you can kind of get an idea right down to fifths of a second. The idea here would be that the scientist would be making the observations of what was being observed, and presumably a lab assistant would be watching the watch and trying to make mental notations of very precise measurements of time. Obviously, by modern standards, not very precise, but this was what they had to work with back in the day. Now, the Richard Lange watch from A. Lange and Söhne is not a reproduction of an actual wristwatch. The scientific observation watches to which this one pays homage were more likely going to be pocket watches rather than wristwatches. Generally, by the time the wristwatch had come into common usage, push-button chronographs were out there. So this is really harking back to pocket watches of the late 19th century. It's very nicely executed. The machining, the polishing on the case is very nice. It's brushed on the sides here. You can see this sort of sandwich case design, which pays tribute to the original construction of pocket watches, which were generally made in 3 plates with the movement sandwiched in between a large bezel and the back plate. Now, one big difference is the Richard Lange scientific observation watch features a really exquisite and beautiful movement, which is highlighted through an exhibition caseback. This also has an exhibition caseback, but the movement that's in here does not warrant an exhibition caseback. Obviously, this is a Miyota 82 1A. The Miyota 8200 series watch movements have been around, I think, since the 1970s. It's a rock-solid movement. It beats at 21.6, that's 21,600 beats per hour. Very reliable. Reasonably accurate. This watch has been running at about plus 12 seconds a day for the last 2 weeks, and which is more than acceptable accuracy as far as I'm concerned for a watch in this price category. The 8200 series movements were originally designed back in the 1970s or 80s to compete directly with Seiko's 7000 series movements, which were generally found in the Seiko 5. Miyota's movements were found in similarly inexpensive citizen watches. This is an old Japanese Seiko 5, which has a Seiko 7009 movement in it. That's the modern day equivalent would be the 7S26 movement, which is still found in the Seiko 5 today. They're very similar movements. The one major advantage that the Miyota 8200 series movements have is that although they are also not hacking, they are hand winding, which the Seiko 7000 series movements have never been. Seiko certainly does make hand-winding movements, but not the 7S26 or any of its predecessors. So that's been an advantage of the Miyotas. Another thing that's nice is the modern 7000 series movements from Seiko are, well, the 7S26. That may be the only one that still exists. I don't know why I keep saying 7000 series. The 7S26 is made in Malaysia, and I don't have any prejudice against Malaysian movements, but the Miyota is still made in Japan. You may be able to read that there. And while I don't know that there's any real material advantage to a Japanese-made movement, it's still a mark up in my book. So I'm very happy to see this Miyota movement in this watch, despite how pedestrian it is. I know that this movement can run for, probably 20 years without servicing. And, at $74, you're not going to send a watch like this out for service. You're going to use this watch until it's done and then probably toss it in a desk drawer. So the exhibition case back is glass, but the crystal is sapphire, and it's slightly domed, which gives it a nice sort of vintage look. It's just an overall very attractive watch. Now, one thing I don't really care for with this watch is this strap. It claims to be genuine leather, and in fact the lining might be genuine leather. This nonsense certainly is not. Now, the original Lange watch does have a black crocodile strap, but crocodile embossed plastic really doesn't measure up, and I think that this strap is really dragging this watch down. Crocodile embossed leather can look pretty nice. I mean, this is a nicely done one. This is the strap that came with my Certina DS First ceramic. This actually is leather, and it really looks nice, but this does not. And so I have sourced another strap, this one in just plain black leather, from what I have been informed is pronounced Wocci. I did review a different Wocci strap, the one that currently resides on my Shanghai. I purchased this last year and did a review of it, and I've worn it quite a bit, and Wocci straps have really kind of taken Amazon by storm. Their watches are really nicely finished. They seem to be of good quality. They seem to hold up fairly well, and I think I paid about $9 for this strap, which is made out of nice oil finished leather, contrasting stitching. It just looks great. This strap is also made from leather, and it also cost about $9, but it's just plain black leather. And although the German watch does feature a crocodile strap, I think that this watch is going to look much better with plain real leather than crocodile embossed, let's be honest, pleather. One other thing that's interesting to note is Wocci has recently taken a note from Barton's book and come up with these quick detach spring bars, which are pretty nice. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and install this strap on this watch so we can take a look at it, but I'm going to pause and come back because I'm not going to make you watch me do this. And voila, that was presumably a lot less painful for you than it would have been watching me do this in real time. This strap is very nice. I think it complements the watch very nicely. As I've come to expect with Wocci bands, it's made out of really nice leather, which purports to be French leather here. I don't know if that's a big selling point or not. It has a very nice stainless steel buckle with a nice shape. It has a cut rather than folded tang, which is nice for strength. Not that I've ever had a folded tang fail, but it's a nice little attention to detail. It shows a certain commitment to quality that Wocci is becoming well known for. I don't really see how you can beat these bands for the money. Anyway, It's not in keeping with the original Lange design, but it is so much better than this piece of plastic Chinese junk. Make no mistake about it, this is also a Chinese band, but it's of much, much nicer quality. Overall, so far, I'm just very, very impressed with the watch. I think the level of fit and finish is very, very nice. This band also looks like it's going to be particularly nice. I'm looking forward to wearing that. Some particulars about the watch. The case diameter is 41 millimeters. It's about 49 millimeters lug to lug with a 20 millimeter lug width for the strap. So sourcing aftermarket straps is going to be very easy. I do recommend Wocci. At least the straps that I've had have been very impressive. And the thing with buying stuff direct from China is you never really know exactly what you're going to get. In the case of buying this watch, one of the things I got, the seller threw in this pink NATO band. Why? I have not the foggiest idea. Pink is not exactly my color. I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I think I might have a pink polo shirt downstairs somewhere, maybe a pair of pink socks. I mean, who knows? Maybe if I attend a charity event to benefit breast cancer research, I'll throw a watch on this and wear it. I mean, but not really my style of watch band, but it was a nice addition nonetheless. And I mean, the seller just threw it in the box. So never know what you're going to get when you buy direct from China. But I do continue to be more and more impressed. I guess that's about all I have to say about this watch. Let's head back over to the bookshelves and wrap it up. All right, so the Debert or Debert clone of the Richard Lange observatory chronometer from A. Lange and Zuna in Glashütte, Germany. It's also sold through similar Chinese sources as a Corju. It's a pretty amazing watch. It's got a rock solid movement in it. The finishing, the polishing is very nice. I'm pretty happy with this watch. I keep being amazed by the Chinese, and I'm going to keep purchasing Chinese watches probably into perpetuity, and I will continue to show them to you here when I do. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you liked it, please go ahead and click the like button. If you hated it, go ahead and click the dislike button. You won't hurt my feelings, but you will be giving me useful feedback. If you are a subscriber and you'd like to get updates when I post new content to the channel, click the little bell icon down below. And when I do post new content to the channel, I hope to see each of you here at that time. Later, guys.